base, iron base 72. So we're talking about how, some of the begodim were 6-ply, 8-ply, 12-ply. So the Gemara says me'il shnei masars, 12-ply. The chsiv asisa es me'il ha'efod kalil techeles. The yoliv techeles me paroiches. It says techeles by paroiches, it says techeles by the me'il. Malahol shisha of kan shisha. But kalil is like double together. So 6 times 2 is 12. Right, the more of a nailif mishul of the rimoina. Why don't learn it out from the way the ply was by the bottom of the me'il, which is malahal and shmona afkan shmona, which was 8. So the Gemara says danin kli mi kli, ve'ein danin kli mi tachshit kli. The bells hanging off the me'il is just a tachshit. It's not the kli itself. And for the Gemara, afraid the Gemara, adarabba danin gufo mi gufo. What do you mean? We should learn things that relate to the me'il from the me'il. The ain dan in gufa me'alma. All of a sudden, you're learning it from the paroiches. What does that have to do with the me'il? I'm reading l'shar begodim. Shalom never ben sheish. No, it refers because the other begodim, not just the one that the Torah was talking about. The other begodim has to have sheish, and that's referring to this one. Then the paroiches esrim va'arba. The paroiches was 24. Because the paroiches was made out of sheish, right, which is linen, argamon, the royal purple, toilash shani tcheles, which is 4. Arba deshisashi, each one of those were 6-ply, so that brings you to 24. And lodina v'lodaino, and there's nothing else to say about that. Then choishen ve'ephoid had Esrim Ushmon, Minolon. How do you know that 28? The Chsiv. V'yasisa choyshen mishpot, ma'ise choyshev, kemase eifo tasenu, zahav, tcheles, vargomon, v'tulosh shoni v'sheish mazor. So you have tcheles, vargomon, tulosh shoni v'sheish, that's the 4 material, times 6 is 24. With the zahav, we'll see, you have 4 strands of zahav for each min, which brings you to 28. Arba de shisa shisa, esrim arba. Zav arba, 1 golden thread that was intermixed with each of the other materials. Esrim v'tamne, 28. Ha, so the aim of zav nabi shisha. Maybe the gold has to be 6-ply. Amra vacha bar Yaakov, Amra kra. The kitzeitz psilim, psil tcheles psilim. So psilim is plural 2. Psilim is 4. Harei kan arba. Rav Ashi Amar Amar Kra, lasois b'secha tchelos v'secha argamon. The gold was interwoven. Hechi navid. Navid arba de trey. If we do 4 times 2, avalei tam, that would be 8. Navid trey. We'll trade a chad. Maybe 2 will be of 2 and 2 will be of 1. But the asisa means they all have to be the same. So 1, 1, 1 is 4, added to the 24 is 28. You call us Yosef Shabbos. Someone tears Bigdei Kuna Chayv Malchus. Shenemar Safa Yelafiv Saviv Maseh Orei Kafi Sakra Yelo Lo Yikareya. You shouldn't tear it. If you tear it, you're Chayv Malchus. Maybe this is what the Torah means. Maybe make a hem on the bottom so that it won't tear.
By the way, Ernie, just
Yes.
Haora, this tearing is a destructive tearing. If you just tear it by mistake, you won't be chayav.
Like anything with malchus, it's got to be active, and you got to have a straw, and you have to be doing amazing. If it's an accident, you shouldn't. Yeah. You wouldn't get malchus. Maybe it's not a lav to tear it. The Torah said, make a hem so that it won't tear. So, it doesn't say do it shelo yikareya. It says lo yikareya, which means it's an active lav. Don't tear. Amr Abelazar, the choyshen, the breastplate, had to be fixed Where's that coming
I
from?
I don't know what that is.
Okay, whatever it is, stop. So the choishen had to be attached to the ephod. You shouldn't remove it. Because it says, lo yizacha choishen, me'ala ephod. Similarly, the aron had rings on it. And there were two poles through the rings by which the aron was carried. Now, even when you put the aron down, even when it was in the Kodesh Kadoshim, the rings were the poles were always through the rings. Whoever takes the sticks out of the rings, you're chayv malchus. Lo yizach v'lo yasuru, because it says lo yasuru mimenu. It shouldn't be removed from it. Maybe what the Torah means is fix it tightly so that it won't come off, but it's not a lav to remove it. So the Gemara says, Miksiv shelo yizach v'shelo yasuru. It doesn't say do it so it shouldn't come out. It says lo yasuru, which is an active lav. Rabbi Yossi showed a steer. Ksiv b'taboy sa'aron yu'abadim. The badim, which are the sticks, the poles to carry the aron, have to be within the rings. Lo yasur mimenu, you shouldn't remove it. Uksiv v'huva et badav b'tabaot. That seems that they would place the poles in the rings. So at times it looks like the poles were not in the ring. So how do you reconcile these psukim? You can remove them a little bit, but you can't remove them completely. That means if you have the stick, the poles within the ring, I mean, they could be moved a little bit. They can't be removed from the aron. That's what the lav is. I might think you can't move them at all. No. Sometimes you could move it. Maybe you can remove them completely and put them in. You can move them around a little, but you can't remove them completely. It says the Mishkan were made by Atzei Shitim that stand. So for example, you have a tree and you cut the tree and you make lumber out of it. So the Mishkan had to be built by pieces of wood that are standing the way they were growing. You can't do it upside down. They have to be done kederach gidulon. The wood was a type that it holds the plating. If you put gold plate or silver plate on the wood would hold it. Maybe after the Churban, we don't need these anymore. The Mishkan and the Beis HaMikdash will be rebuilt. That the Bigdei Kahuna are called Bigdei Asrad. Because if it wasn't for the Bigdei Kahuna, that the Kohanim are getting kapor for Klal Yisrael, Klal Yisrael would not remain even a fragment. Sarid means like a refugee, a remnant. So that's why they're called the Bigdei Srad, because without it, we would all be remnants. Rabbi Shmuel ben Achmeni Omer Dvei Rabbi Shmin Tana, Begodim shegordim oison kivriyoson mikleyan, Musardi mehem klum. They're not woven like other begodim. It's woven like a round, closed, like a curtain that doesn't require sewing. And you don't have to leave anything over. That's the concept of the sarid. Mahi. For example, needlework. Now, what kind of needlework with maisre? How can you say there was needlework? The big tikkun are made by weaving, not by needlework. The arm or the sleeve, that was attached to the main body of the big tikkun by needlework. They wove it separately. They sewed it to the with a needle. So it was partly woven, partly sewn. Betzalel made 3 aroinos. And Soishal H Tish 9 tefach inner box made out of wood. Pnimi shel zav shmon, inside was a box of gold 8. Chitzon asar mashu. Then you place the wooden box inside the outer box, which was gold. So it was gold, wood, gold. Vataya chad asar mashu. It says another Bryce says 11. Depends how thick the gold is. If it's a tefach thick, then you need 11. If it's a stamashu, you don't need it. Just need 9. Or you need 10. Umay mashu zir. Zir is the like the crown that went around the top of the Yoram. Omrav Yechon shloisha zirimein. Because it says zer zav saviv. There were 3 kelim that had a crown. Shel mizbeach, which we're talking about the mizbeach hazav, the golden mizbeach that the Ktoris was offered on. Shel aron and shel shulchan. Shel mizbeach zacha aron notlo. The mizbeach represents keser kahuna, which Aaron and his generation and his ancestors have taken. Shel shulchan zacha david v'notlo. Shulchan always refers to parnasa or malchus. And that David HaMelech has with his generations. The Zer of Aaron Adain Munachu. That anyone can get. Whoever wants to take the crown of Torah, come and take it. Are you going to say this crown is less? No, it's with this crown that the kings will rule. Rabbi Yochanan Rami, Ksiv Zar, V'Karinan Zer. It's written Zar, but we read it Zer. Zacha nasis lazer. If a person merits through his good deeds, becomes a crown. Lo zacha zar emen. These things become a stranger to him. Parnasa or Torah. Rabbi Yochanan Rami ksiv asis lacha aron eitz. Moshe himself was told to make the aron. Uksiv asu aron atzei shitim. Klai Yisrael made the aron. Mikal tamid chacham shabnei iro. You have a Talmid Chacham in town. The people of the town have to make sure that the Talmid Chacham has parnasa. Like, even though command was given to Moshe, Moshe has busier things to do. So the Klai Yisrael did it for Moshe. So Moshe had time to study Torah. The Aron was plated with gold from the outside and the inside. Amar Rava, called Talmid Chacham shein toicha kabaro ein a Talmid Chacham. This is a Musar Haskel, that your innards have to be like your outside. You can't show yourself like you're a big Talmid Chacham, but inside you're not a Yirei Shamayim. Your toicha has to be kabaro. Amar Rabbi Temer Rabbi Ula Nikra Nita, a Talmid Chacham who secretly commits averos, he's not a Yirei Shamayim, he's called a toeva, an abomination. Shenemar, af kinita v'nelach ishosa kamayim avla. Amar Shmuel ben Amar Yechon, ma'itich siv, lama ze mechir b'yad ksil. Why is this purchase in the hands of a fool? Iknois chachma v'levayin. Oy lehem l'sonim shal tamid chachamim shoiskim b'toiva and b'mir shamayim. Woe is to tamid chachamim who study Torah, but they have no Yiras Shamayim. They talk about in Slobodka, yeshiva, like in the 1880s, 1890s, they were brilliant Talmudic scholars, but they used to smoke cigars on Shabbos. That's what I've heard. That these were people maybe influenced by communism, socialism, and the Slobodki, the Volozhin, and Slobodka maybe had it too, but in Volozhin too, Bialik learned in Volozhin. They were great scholars, but they weren't necessarily Shomer Torah mitzvahs completely. There was a lot of secular demands that secular studies be brought into the Volozhin, and the Netziv in 1892 closed the yeshiva when it became a requirement that by Russia that they teach a certain number of hours secular subjects, and the Netziv closed the yeshiva based on that. A lot of history is written about that. Machaz Rav Yanai, Chaval ad lesle darta, v'tar ledarte ovid. He's built a shar for his courtyard, but he doesn't have a courtyard. The courtyard is Yiras Shamayim. The Torah is the opening to the courtyard. So if somebody was oisik b'Torah without having the Yiras Shamayim, it's like the same thing. Don't create a situation where you can have two Gehennims. You don't study Torah with Yiras Shamayim, even in this oilam, you're going to be omel b'Torah, and you're not going to be zoicha to be mahana from this world. So it'll be like a Gehenim. And in Olam Haba, you'll also have Gehenim, because you were not zoicha to Gan Eden. Amar Yeshua ben Levi. Ma'idich si v'zoisa Torah asher sam Moshe. Zach, a person studies Torah properly, nasas lo sam chayim. It becomes an elixir of life. Lo zach nasas lo sam nisa. Becomes a poison. Hayna damarava, the uman law, summon the chaya. Somebody who trains himself to study Torah the right way and loves it, becomes his profession. It's an elixir of life. If he's not a believer in it, the lo uman basama de musa, then it's a poison. The officers of Hashem are straight and happy of heart. Uksiv imras Hashem tserufa. Charifus. So, like he's being checked carefully. So, what's this? Zacha misamchaso. If he studies Torah the right way, the Torah will make him happy. He doesn't study the right way. It's sarafto. It burns him. It makes it difficult. It's going to be medagdek in every detail. Zachat sarafta l'chayim. It seals him for life. Lo zachat sarafta l'misa. Yiras Hashem Torah meres la'ad. Yiras Hashem is pure. It stands forever. Amar Chanina. Zaloi miTorah b'Torah. Somebody who studies Torah with Yiras Shamayim. Ma'i noisi ishav achkach lo miTorah. If a person gets married and then learns Torah, that's the koilel concept. That they got married and then they studied koilel because they're not running around thinking about girls. Their Yetzer Hara has been dealt with because they're already married. Then they can learn Torah. That's somebody who learns Torah b'Tahara. Eidus Hashem ne'emana. Arachia barava ne'emana hi lehe'eid beloim deha. The Torah is going to give testimony on people who studied it, that he learned it in the right way. Ma'aser roike, ma'aser choyshev. We say that the paroiches was a ma'aser roike and a ma'aser choyshev. What's this? Amar Lazar. Sheroik mean b'makom shechoyshvin. They would first, for example, one of the coverings, there was a lion on one side and let's say an eagle on the other side. So they would first paint the lion or draw it, and then they would know how to weave it. Roikem is maisa machat. Roikem is work with the needle point. Lefichach partzuf echad. So that was a type of covering where there was a picture on one side and the other side was blank. Choyshev, the complicated way, where it required cheshbonos, maisa oirig lefichach shnei partzufos. They wove it in a way that on one side it looked like a lion, on the other side it looked like an eagle. How do you do that? I have no idea. but they used thread, so on one side it looked like a lion, on the other side it looked like an eagle. Okay. Be'elu nisholim b'urim v'tumim. The Mishnah said that they would only ask shilas of the Urim v'Tumim wearing the big day kahuna, the Kohen Gadol wearing the big day kahuna. The same 8 begadim the Kohen Gadol wears. So the Kohen that was called Meshuach Melchama went out in battle with the Israeli army to give them chizuk and all that. He also had to wear the 8 begadim. Shneimar uvigdei hakodesh shel Aaron yulevanav achrav lemisha ba b'gdula achrav. Whoever is like next in the level of gedula, because under the Kohen Gadol is the Kohen Meshuach Melchama. Maybe the Meshuach Melchama Kohen, his son, could serve underneath him. Just like the son of the Kohen Gadol could also become the Kohen Gadol. Shivas Yomim Yilbasham HaKohen Tachtav Mibanot Sheyavel Ol Moed. Mi Shorei Lavel Ol Moed. We'll analyze this tomorrow, why there's a difference between the Meshuach Melchama and a regular Kohen Gadol. Okay, so tomorrow we will learn, God willing, at 7:30.